To another edition of Skir Scoop. Today we are going to be, previewing Nebraska's regional. So they are set to host the Lincoln Regional for the first time since 2008 when Will Bolt was playing. I do believe Will, right? Brody. But yeah, super exciting. Obviously, the Big Ten tournament didn't quite end the way that anybody wanted it to. Just a little bit of an uninspired performance there against Oregon. But this team has a lot of momentum going into the regional here, and there's reason to believe that they can come out of it. So super exciting. But yeah, I guess Brody, we'll go ahead and pass it off to you and just give us your initial thoughts here on kind of who they pulled, I guess.
100%. Yeah. Well, I want to start that Big Ten tournament. Some people were kind of stressed or upset about that Oregon game, but I really think Will Bolt just wanted to win that Michigan game and lock in that hosting a regional spot, then save the arms and go, which I'm fine with. I know Twitter's not a great, influence for this, but they weren't very happy, but it's okay. We're perfectly fine. I don't think we're really going to move up in regional spot anyways, but we avoid Arkansas, which is what a lot of fans were scared of, was getting Arkansas to regional again, because it'd be pretty cool having Davian Horn come back here where he hosted regionals here before, and then you play in him. That'd be pretty cool. But you get Arizona State, Ole Miss, which will be Arizona's probably the best 3 seed, if not one of, and Ole Miss, SEC baseball, that's what they're known for. Pretty scary times. And they did actually, yes, Nebraska sports got a break. They got the worst team in the field to come here in South Dakota State. So that's really huge. But that game, too, against the winner of Arizona State and Ole Miss is going to be scary. And I think the main thing is a lot of questions are surrounding around who's going to be pitching these times and what's Will Bolt's strategy. And my plea, if Will Bolt was watching this, probably not, obviously, but yes, we need to save Yasa for the Saturday game. That's my plea. I would love to see Katsuki go against South Dakota State, because Katsuki, he has had some troubles with better opponents, but he's shut down not so great ones either, because this is a perfect opportunity to throw him against South Dakota State, because you have to throw 4 arms at minimum to win your regional. And saving Katsuki for a later game that might end up being a must-win, like say you drop a game at some point and he's your must-win guy, kind of scary. So I would love to see him go against South Dakota State and just go from there, but you never know. What do you think about that, Elliot?
Yeah, I feel like, you're obviously, like you said, you're going to have to throw at least 4 arms, in these games. And, throwing a guy like Cooper Katsuki, like you're saying, that's, probably your 4th guy, playing against South Dakota State, get him some confidence going, into the tournament, build at the end of the season, getting some confidence, so that, if he does have to play, a higher caliber team at some point, and whichever time he has to come in, he's ready and he has confidence that has built up, to be able to, strike out those, better teams. And I guess I'll segue a little bit just into from, pitching to batting. Obviously, we've seen this team go, on crazy runs at the end of the games. Like, you'll think they're out of the game, and then the bats just, they're on fire. And, against the Minnesota series comes to mind when I'm just thinking about that. But, you can just never count this team out. It's just they've done it a few times this season where they just come out of nowhere and, they just figure out how to, string some hits together, and they kind of feed off of each other. Happens a lot in baseball, but this team is, really good at just feeding off each other's energy and, keeping it going. And I'm excited to see what they can do with this regional. Obviously they have, two kind of testing it with Ole Miss, and Arizona State. And if you obviously need to get by South Dakota State, you can't just sleepwalk through that. But if you can get through that and then get to Ole Miss and Arizona State, it's gonna, it'll be a good regional, and hopefully keep the off season going. With Nebraska sports just continuing, to do really well in a lot of sports.
100%, yeah. And picking back off your point of the bats getting on fire at times, I would love for that to happen early in the South Dakota State game, because if you can get up early, it doesn't matter who you're throwing, because you can just throw in your bullpen arms that haven't been too hot this year, and you'll be fine because your bats are working, and you can save those high leverage arms for these later games. And it's obvious, but just the huge thing about hosting a regional, yes, you get your home crowd, you don't have to travel, but you also play the lowest seed in your first game, which seems like an obvious, oh, well, obviously, but you can save so many things just from not playing the tougher opponents first, because you save your bullpen arms, you can get your bats ready up and moving, and it's just huge. And especially in a regional this tough, it's like the fifth hardest regional by RPI. I mean, it's just huge for us to get that South Dakota State poll instead of getting a feisty 4 seed. Like Murray State last year, they were a 4 seed. They come up and win that regional, and then win their super regional and go to the College World Series. If you get a tough 4 seed, you're throwing your worst arm against a really good opponent, and it just ruins you. So really lucky break to get South Dakota State coming to Lincoln, and hopefully get a fun game to watch Friday at 3:00.
Yeah, I guess just to piggyback off of that as well, I wanted to ask your guys' opinion. So obviously Nebraska gets the early game, and then Ole Miss and Arizona State will play afterwards. So do you think that's advantageous, knowing that Nebraska will be, theoretically coming off a win against South Dakota State, and then having that opportunity to kind of regroup a little bit and get to watch that game before knowing who they're gonna play, and obviously just getting that opportunity to see the game live and in person, and kind of strategize how they're gonna move on the following day.
100%, yeah. I think the biggest aspect is just getting more rest. I mean, it's simple, but it's just a great way to think about it, because play that earlier game, you get your point of watching, seeing what to look for is very helpful, but also you're going to have a little bit more rest. It goes back to our Big Ten tournament where we're playing until 2 a.m. and you don't sleep as much that night, and it really comes back to haunt you. And the elimination game will be first on Saturday, which would be around I think it was 2 o'clock or something like that. And it'll be a nightcap game for the game 2, but I think it is huge getting that first game, which I'm guessing most of the time would be from the host. I could be wrong on that. So, yeah.
Then my next question for you, obviously we're talking about how things ended up going with the, Big Ten tournament there, kind of with that late game, and then obviously having to turn around the next night and go ahead and play. I think, not to take it away from baseball, but obviously, with Nebraska basketball, how good of a season that they had. The way things ended in the Big Ten tournament, where they kind of had that premature exit against Purdue, I think it kind of geared them up a little bit to have that run that they did in the NCAA tournament. Do you think we could be looking at something like that potentially with Nebraska here, versus say they make it all the way to the Big Ten championship and then end up losing that game, and it's kind of all for naught potentially?
Yeah, 100%. I really think the biggest thing of that was just beating Michigan, but this team has had a chip on their shoulder all year, and it's just been amazing. No matter what's happening. I mean, you go back, 3-4 weeks ago in that Ohio State series where they got swept, and everyone's counting them out they're not hosting a regional anymore. They're falling off. They're not going to be the same. They come right back, and they get up to a 13 seed and are hosting a regional now. This team, they never quit. And it's even showing their ninth inning comebacks. They never quit. Will Bolt has these guys firing on all cylinders, and I do love that point. I really think them losing, especially in the way they did to Oregon, is going to benefit this team a lot.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we haven't, talked about too, I think they've only lost one game at home this year.
Yes.
And so they get to play these games at home in front of the Husker crowd. Just to relate it back again to basketball, we got to see how it wasn't a home game in the tournament, but it basically was with just the amount of fans that were there. Being a player, being on the field, on the court, being able to feed off of your crowd, playing in front of that the home crowd just gives you more to just want to win. More effort into the game. It means more to win at home, just because it's at home. You're playing in front of your family and friends that can make it to the game, and then it's everybody that's been there supporting you all year too. And so they've proven that they can win at home at a high clip, and let's just hope they can continue that on into the regional as well.
Yeah, and honestly, just to continue your point there, Nebraska basketball had a great record at home. Nebraska softball had a great record at home. The ability for these Nebraska fans to be rewarded for what they're seeing on the field or on the court or whatever sport it is. I think it's super encouraging as, fans to be able to, not have to leave Lincoln to go watch these games, to be able to cheer on their team at home and, theoretically help cheer them on to, advancing into the super regional. So I think that's super awesome. Just seeing all the success that Nebraska athletics overall is having. And, hopefully baseball can get a little bit of what the softball team has, and we'll see what happens after this goes down. But yeah, I guess Brody, I don't know if you have anything else to say, but
I got one more thing. It's a little bit hypothetical, but it's very doable. Okay. I mean, you were talking about playing close to home, and that there is a route where this team doesn't leave the state in their entire run, because all it takes is Auburn to get put out, and then we're hosting that super regional, and then obviously Cultural Citizen Omaha. There is a path for us to be playing in the state of Nebraska until the end of June. So
that would be insane. That'd be super insane. Yeah. And just like, thinking about that, what 23-1 was the record at home, and their only loss was to Kansas, Michigan. Correct?
It was yeah. It was Kansas, yeah.
Kansas? Okay. Who's also I believe hosting, right?
Yes, they're not. They're one seed.
That's right. Yeah,
they are one seed. Okay, yeah. So my point being, right? Yeah. Okay. So the point being is, their only loss at home was to a very solid team that has the potential to make a deep run. And yeah, so I think if that were to be the case, there's definitely reason to believe that Nebraska can continue kind of just feeding off the fan base and doing what they've already done so well to this point in the season. So that could be super exciting, but. Either way, it starts with South Dakota State first. You can't overlook them. Like Elliot was saying, it's the same thing with like when Nebraska football welcomes in Ohio or North Dakota or Bowling Green. You can't overlook these teams. They're and especially in the postseason, right? It's either a team that's hot or won their conference and got a bid. So either way, they're somewhat dangerous, even if they are the highest or lowest rated RPI team in the tournament. So win that game. Get ready to move on and watch that game between Ole Miss and Arizona State and get ready to play some baseball. So it's super exciting. And yeah, nothing else from me. So if you guys are good, okay, yeah, that'll do it for us here. Thank you for tuning in. We might be expecting some recruiting news. Obviously, Nebraska football has had a good stretch this last week on the offensive line, but we might have a surprise video coming up for you guys in the near future here, which would be super exciting, that we're looking forward to, and I know you guys will be too. So, we'll keep you updated as long as Nebraska keeps playing in the tournament here for baseball as well. So thank you guys for tuning in. Like, subscribe, comment. If you guys have any ideas on future videos, we'll always take recommendations as well. But we appreciate you guys tuning in for this one, and we'll catch you in the next one.